Hi, and welcome to Finding Your Way Through Therapy. The goal of this podcast is to demystify therapy, what can happen in therapy, and the wide array of conversations you can have in and about therapy. Through personal experiences, guests will talk about therapy, their experiences with it, and how psychology and therapy are present in many places in their lives. With lots of authenticity and a touch of humor, here is your host, Steve Bisson.
Seems like that intro guy says the same thing every time. I hope you can laugh about it. But welcome to episode 123. If you haven't listened to episode 122 with the Mental Men, please go and listen to it. It's just a great group of guys who like to talk about therapy, mentorship, the difficulties we face and stuff like that. But episode 123 with Brad Mastrangelo, he made sure that I introduce him as an all-around great guy. That's his title, actually. But all joking aside, Brad is a stand-up comedian for many, many years. He's going to tell us about how he started. He's going to tell us, hopefully, a few jokes. And I just saw him at a comedy show in Boston, Massachusetts, and it was amazing. He was very funny. I've known him through his wife. I worked with his wife for many, many, many years. Love Stephanie. And Brad is someone that I've always seen and talked, but we never had a one-on-one. And this will be our first one-on-one, and I hope you enjoy the interview. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 123. You get excited with different guests. I've been 123 times. You say you're excited, but, I've known Brad for, I don't know, I want to say at least 15 to 16 years. I don't think we've ever had like an individual conversation like this because Stephanie always overtakes it, his wife. But I'm joking, of course. But Brad I always mispronounce Mastrangelo. That's okay. I had it right. I was going the right direction. I stopped myself. Brad is just an amazing human being, first and foremost. And I truly believe that. But we're going to maybe talk to the comedian today. Maybe we're going to talk to other things that he does. But Brad, I was lucky enough to see him recently on do his stand-up. And of course, he didn't see me, which is perfect. That's what I wanted, because I didn't want any Canadian jokes or old man jokes. But Brad, welcome to Finding Your Way Through Therapy.
Oh, it's great to be here, Steve. Thank you. And congratulations on all you've been doing.
I enjoy this tremendously, and people seem to like it. And it's always good to have someone who, I like to bring people on that people may not know. And if they discover him, they discover him. And if they knew about him, they tell all their friends, and I get 100,000 downloads, as you obviously will be bringing to me. But Brad, if you want to tell us a little more about yourself, because I know you, but obviously our audience may not know you.
Yeah, well, I'm just let's see. I was born in Chelsea, Mass. That's a humorous on its own, and then and then moved from there to Wakefield, and now I've got two brothers, and now my wife Stephanie. I've been married for it's going to be 29 years coming up soon. We live up. Wayland now, and have one daughter, Sophia, who's a junior in college. And I've had my own carpet cleaning business for about 35 years. So I still do that. And the comedy, stand-up is something that I did on a dare one night. Never wanted to be a comedian, never thought about it. I mean, I love to laugh, so I do both. Carpet cleaning. Yeah, like I said, came into it on a dare, and now it's been probably 1991 was the first time I went on stage at Nick's Comedy Club. And now
where's that?
That's in Boston. That's one of the original, real big ones. And but now, I work a lot. I travel the country on cruise ships, and my wife and daughter have got to see some pretty great places. So that, and like you say, you never know what life's going to bring you. So that's what happened.
So on a dare.
Yeah.
I went to see you for the first time since I've known you. Right. And I'm like, even if you dared me to go on stage, I'd be like, yeah, I'm good. I'll hide behind this microphone that no one sees. Well, how did that come about?
Well, bunch of friends. Look, here's the backlash. I'm such the anti-comedian. I'm not a drinker. I've never done drugs. I was a good athlete, all through college. So but I was funny with the guys. You know how it is. Yeah. And a friend of mine, I guess, went to a comedy show and you could do that. And I said, no. So for months and months, they kept begging, so honestly, to shut them up. I said, all right, we'll go. They have an open mic night. So I was at Nick's, and I figured it was all amateurs, but I get there and it's all pros, like practicing and stuff. I said, oh, this will be great. But honestly, really wasn't nervous because I figured we'd laugh about it years later. So I get on, they give you like 5 minutes. And I think I was just talking about family and stuff, and everyone would laugh and laugh. And so I finish, and the booker for the nightclub comes over. He says, how long you been doing this? I says, 5 minutes. So he tried to convince me to come back. And I said, no, this is a one-time thing. So he did. And they had me at this competition at Stitches Comedy, which is gone, but it used to be down by Fenway. And so I went on the second time I did comedy at this little competition, and I won. So that was weird. And then they started offering to pay me. So I said, well, I guess, so it was really kind of like that. That's how I kind of stumbled into it, and then the rest, as they say, is history.
Well, when we talk about like falling into it, I hear that all the time.
Yeah.
And the other part that I want to say is that, well, you got to have a little more passion than just falling into it. Because,
it's a good point, because once you start, and then I'll say, and any comedian will tell you this, you get that feedback, that laughter. It's contagious. It's like it puts you on an emotional high, because it's, they're accepting you. Look, we all want to be accepted in life, and it's part of the problem in the world. But you're getting that automatic feedback, and you're saying, wow. It's interesting. I always said I never considered myself like smart until I started doing stand-up, because the first time in my life I looked at it and said, you can't be dumb and do this. So emotionally, for me, it was a real big turning point in my life, mentally, which was good.
Yeah. I had that conversation many times with my clients. They look at the back of me and they say, oh, you're smart. You have all these diplomas. And I'm like, these are pieces of paper.
Yeah.
My smarts didn't come from these pieces of paper. You can have 14 diplomas and be dumb as a rock.
Absolutely.
I think that, we underestimate where intelligence comes from, but that's just my two
Big time. Big time. I see it every day with people that even like do the Capricorns. I'm with people all the time, and you know it. You see people with these degrees and street. I always said street smarts is way more helpful in life than the book smarts. Book smarts is fine, but some of these people, oh my goodness, I'll just look at like a deer in the headlights with some of the things they say. It's just.
I know. I think that that's what I find funny too. And to me, like, the I call it emotional intelligence. And to be a very good comedian and reading the room, you have to have a lot of emotional intelligence. There's a room where you talk about your wife and it's going to be funny and everyone's going to buy it. So you can go on and go off on, like, there's 7-12 jokes that you have on that. And someone, you go on the wife and they go, ooh, and you're like, okay, that's a wrong road to go on. Oh, you guys get offended.
I think I do it. I think hopefully you notice it as in a way that, and I always during a point in the show say how much that I love her and she's my best friend. So I always do. So to kind of, it's more like a relatable thing that all marriages have. That's what I'm going for. And I think that comes across. I hope it does.
But it does. But my point is that sometimes you read the room and you say, okay, maybe I got to go to another set of jokes. And that takes a lot of intelligence, in my opinion.
Yes, you're right. You do. You could usually tell about 3 or 4 minutes into the show where you're going to go with the material.
Yeah, because I think that, I know how much you joke around with Steph, and I know how much you love each other. So it's always good to kind of relate it, but it also for me, has always been like, I've seen comedians and sometimes people get like, well, I can't believe he said that about his daughter, his wife, his neighbor. And I'm like, you understand this is a profession, right? You understand that this is not like who they really are. And if it is truly who they are, I mean, I guess that can happen, but there's a part of truth of it, but it's not. It's a show. It's
Truth be told, Stephanie could say way more things about me than I could about her.
This is not the show to do it, but yes, I know that. But I think that that's what it is, right? And there's something about being able to laugh about yourself or laughing about it's so important. I mean, as a therapist, I people always go like, "Well, you always like crack a joke here and there," and I'm like, yeah, because you gotta laugh about yourself. I mean, I'm not gonna win.
That's our problem in today's world. I really do. I mean, I'm not going to get political, but boy, if we could just laugh a little more at ourselves, I think we'd be a little better off.
I don't think it's political. I think it's social.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
people joke around. I was the first thing I didn't even set it up, so I'm gonna just say it now. I'm like, the meeting of bald men, and always people. So some people are like, "Oh, you got no hair," and I'm like, "You really think this is the first time someone commented on me not
You're
having?"
a genius.
But
I
I think
think,
you're right. It's
yeah,
socially, we need to learn how to take a joke.
big time, big time. And as a comedian, it becomes difficult sometimes because all of us will say to ourselves, you really have to kind of think about what you're going to say. And even like I do a lot of cruise ships, and so now you have people from different parts of the country with different beliefs and this and that. And I've had guys that have lost work because they made one off comment that someone got offended by. So it's like, man, we got to get away from that if we can. Having said that, I don't think there's a place to go out on stage and just be offensive for 45 minutes. I don't think there's a place for that. But what's the things that have become offensive now and that may have been before are miles apart. That's the problem.
Right. I agree. I
Yeah.
mean, one of my all-time favorites is Don Rickles.
Oh God, me too.
And if you bring Don Rickles to this world, I know he's no longer of this world, but if you brought him to a stand-up situation anywhere now, Don would be booed off stage, would be
Oh,
like ostracized. And yet I think Don did a lot of funny shit.
oh God. Well, Steph and I saw him in Las Vegas.
Oh, really?
What a lot of people don't know unless you see him. At the end of the show, whoever he was picking on was brought out a bottle of champagne. And he ended the show by saying, we're just having fun. We have to laugh at each other. And I was so impressed by that. And yeah, but you're right. He wouldn't look at All in the Family, my favorite television show ever. That would
Yeah.
last for 10 minutes nowadays.
And I think that's why, like, even though we're talking about therapy a little bit here, but I think it's, finding your way through therapy is also a social kind of like aspect. That therapy is a social aspect of things. I sit there and do you think I agree with all my freaking clients?
Of course not.
Do you think I go there and go, "Oh my God, you offended me. Please leave my office"?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think that's what's missing in this world is that, we're all trying to survive it. I don't know about you, but I'm just trying to make it like to the other side unscathed or as unscathed as I can.
Raise our kids the right way, and that's what we're here for. Yeah, I talked to a therapist one time, and I said to her, "Do you ever just want to look at someone during therapy and go, shut up?" She's laughing. I go, "No, you can tell me. Just no, who cares?"
Well, I think that I've done that to someone. I've
Have you?
I've done that to actually a couple of people.
Have you?
And people are like, "How dare you?" or "Why did you do that?" And there's one particular case. It was to move from the subject we've been talking about for 3 goddamn months.
Yeah.
Like, like I go back, I love comedy, and I didn't say that at the time, but I always go back to Chris Rock. I love Chris Rock too.
Yeah, yeah.
And Chris Rock, and you're like, "Hey, did I tell you about the time?" "Yeah, you told me about the time. How about you get fucking kidnapped? Have new shit happen to you?" For a client would be like, someone who's listening to this might be like, "Wow, that wasn't therapeutic." In fact, it is because
Yeah,
if you revisit the same story over and over again, expecting a different result, that's called insanity.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
So you
you
need
know
to
it,
tell
and
them to shut up.
then yeah, no, yeah. It's like seriously, you've talked about this for 3 months. Matter of fact, now I know why you have this problem.
But no, it's the truth, and I bring comedy to my therapy sessions, and
Great.
I'm not saying that I'm a comedian by any stretch of the imagination, but
Everybody can be funny, and especially in the situation you're in. I think it brings a little levity to it, and which I say this. I think, and I think you'll agree. My biggest thing is in life to me when you're laughing at the point you're laughing, you're not upset about anything. For that 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 45 minutes, anything you have that really affects you is gone. So I think it's fantastic therapy to get out and laugh.
I mean, I'm going to be the boring study guy here and say that the endorphins that you get from the laughter actually
Yeah,
opens you up for better therapy.
I bet. Yeah,
You
it
know,
just yeah because it's like you let yourself go for a while, and I guess that's it's medicine. So I'm a doctor, and I should be getting paid much more.
maybe that's your next gimmick when you go on stage.
But yeah, you see it. You really, and people, and to me, it's full. As cliche as it sounds, when you're watching people laugh, I get it. so much therapy out of myself because it's just so powerful and so wonderful to look out and see that, especially in today's world, Steve. There's so much.
That being at your show, there was a couple of people that were like, and this is on YouTube too, so you can see me, but with their arms crossed, sitting there. Well, all right, make me laugh, monkey man.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and then there was another part of the crowd that was like making jokes before the show, talking back to the
yeah,
comedians, and
yeah,
to me, that makes it, as long as you don't make it all about you, that makes it so much more dynamic.
yeah. Then you get people. I've had people come to me. Oh, you're a comedian. Yeah, I don't like to laugh. What do I say to that? I mean, honestly, I've had that a few times. Like,
Really?
you don't like to laugh? No. Well, it's always funny when someone comes to me. It's a compliment, but a little strange. I never laugh, but you made me laugh. I'm like, why don't you laugh?
Right.
That's crazy. But yeah, I don't know. When someone says that right off the bat, you're like, okay, all right. You don't like to laugh. All right. I don't like to wet my bed. It happens.
Well, it's one of those things that, again, bringing it back to a little bit of therapy.
Yeah.
In my work, as an emotional coach, I talk about how, they talk about 6 basic emotions: and anger, sadness, fear, disgust, surprise, and happy.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, well, I don't like to be fearful. We're all fearful.
Yeah. You have a choice.
You don't like to be happy? I'm sorry, we're all happy. Whether you repress it or not, don't matter to me, but you
Yeah.
need to be able to kind of like get there.
Yeah. Why deprive yourself of that emotion? It doesn't make any sense.
And I think it's funny because I think the week prior to this podcast, we're going to have the mental men, and it's a bunch of therapists, and we talk about that too, because like, why would you deprive yourself of anything? And you don't know everything, and
No.
life is not that serious. And if you make that life so much serious, you're going to be so miserable as a
Oh
human
God.
being.
And you deal with people. I see people that just miserable, and I'm like, you're in charge of your own misery a lot of times. Make the steps. Go to therapy. Do this. There's so many outlets now to help people, but they have to make that first step. Like
Yeah, and I mean, I worked with your wife in a specific environment
Yeah.
where we needed to, like, people would be like, sometimes I remember people would be like, you made that client laugh. You left and they're in a good mood. They came in, they had like a scowl on their face.
Hmm.
I'm like, did they talk to you and say goodbye? Yeah. Oh, they never do that. I'm like, exactly. That's how important it is to make at least people smile and laugh and all that. And just my 2 cents.
Yeah. No, I swear by it. That's you just can't help to feel better about yourself when you're smiling or laughing. Not that it's going to cure everything, but it goes a little ways to helping you push forward.
And also being able to take yourself less seriously. I think that's the other part too that you talk about,
Biggest thing.
socially.
Yeah.
This is not political to me. When you talk about politics, the people take themselves too damn seriously. I
What
mean,
they
I remember Tom Brady when he was playing for the Patriots, and he went to, I think it was Dick's Sports Store in California, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Hey, you look like the guy." He's like, "I am the guy," and then he
Yeah.
starts making fun of him with his
Right.
accent and all that. I
Yeah.
just think it's funny to be able to laugh about yourself.
That's and the people that are like so serious. Like one guy, there was a guy at a cruise ship I was working with, a comedian, very funny guy, and I guess he made an offhanded comment, like a throwaway line about Biden, and someone was so irate. They got up and they demanded he be fired. And I'm saying to myself, you want to take a guy's livelihood away from him because you can't take a joke? What's wrong with that scenario? That's why Steve, I don't talk politics, right? Because you lose half the room nowadays. Before you could, but not now. Someday maybe we will be.
I talk about anything with anyone
Yeah,
in my sessions, and I always explain to people that I lean left, but I'm not a Democrat, and
yeah,
sometimes I lean right, but I'm not a Republican. I'm a human
right,
being with a point of view, and I
yeah,
expect you to have a point of view. If you're just buying into the propaganda of Democrats, Republicans, and I'm from Canada, liberals, conservatives, and all that, you are just part of the problem, because Biden, Trump, Obama, Bush, I can go on, and I can't remember all 46. I'm now a citizen, so I don't have to remember all that shit.
No, it's time for you. You're done. Yeah, that's what.
But like I don't have to buy into any of that. I mean, I've said to people before, and this is something I'm more than happy to say out here. There's something about Reaganomics that was actually helpful.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh my God, you support everything about it. I'm like, no, I
No,
said some of it. Why is it
no.
that it's got to be an all or nothing process here?
Well, I say I'm independent, and I say I think the problem is take the D and the R away, and we could all maybe get together on the same boat and make some nice decisions. That's what it's become. I just think that's killing us. You know.
I explain that to people all the time because I mentioned to someone that there's a candidate who may or may not still be running for all I know by the time this is out, who had said that we got to set term limits. And if you're over 75 in Congress, you got to have some sort of mental health status and make sure that you're okay. Oh,
Nothing
so
wrong
you
with that.
support all the politics? No, we
No.
talked about specifically this issue. Why did I have suddenly become whatever you think it is?
Yeah.
I don't give a crap. I sat there with your wife in situations where I disagreed with the decision made in the office.
Mhm.
And that didn't mean I didn't love anyone I worked with, and just
Right.
meant I disagreed with that. And we had that understanding. We didn't even have to say, do we have this understanding? But it
Right.
literally, we need to say that now.
Because you know what it is? We have opinions. So
Right.
it's an opinion. That's it.
I go back to Dogma too. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but Chris Rock's in there. And one of the lines is it's about religion, and it's in a very, very good view, like critical view. I know Harvey Weinstein is the producer, so it's hard to find now.
Right.
But one of the things he talks about is like, God thinks we had one thing wrong. He came up with ideas, and ideas, that's great because you can change your mind, you can talk to people. But once you make it a belief, it's tricky. People will die for beliefs. And
Hmm.
if we move to ideas from beliefs, maybe we can survive. And this is a movie from I think Dog was like 2000, 2001,
Oh,
around
okay.
there. And I always thought that that's a good way to see life. I have a view of coffee.
Hmm.
You may disagree with me, but I'm not going to kill you because we disagreed about coffee.
Well, I say this different time. I remember when I was a kid, little kid, if my parents, people would be coming over, they would actually have discussions about politics and listen to each other, and it was okay. That is gone, really gone.
And I think that that's where we need to be able to do it. Again, I have no problem if people are not agreeing with me. I don't, I believe that women have a right to choose, and it's none of my business what women choose to do with a baby. And I have a client who is very staunch pro-life.
Hmm.
And we have the most wonderful discussions because it is not personal. And we talk
Right.
about, and how that becomes therapeutic, as someone would ask, is that by examining those thought processes and being able to have a disagreement without hating each other. Like, oh, I can do that with other people. I said, no shit, Sherlock.
Yeah. Well, I try to say this is what I try to say to myself and other people. Once you shut out someone else's opinion because you don't like it, you lose the ability to learn and educate yourself. You don't have to agree, but there might be something in there that you didn't know and go, oh, okay. But we've come to the point now where no one's doing that anymore. And that's too bad.
And I think that that's why, comedy to me brings up these things that we hide from ourselves or hide from others.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
The
Yeah.
a good punchline is something that makes you slightly uncomfortable before you laugh.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest compliment I get when people come up to me and say, oh my God, I can relate to all that stuff. Because, yeah, that's what we want to do. Think about what we do, dumb things, funny things, smart things, and talk, bring it up, laugh about it.
Right.
Then we're starting to go in the right direction, I think. And as long
And
as they pay me, Steve, I don't really care.
yeah, hey, I'm right there with you. That's what I say to my
And
clients. As
now it's
long as you pay
Canadian.
me.
We're going up to Canada, doing a cruise up to a couple hots in Nova Scotia,
Oh, really?
Sydney, St. John's, and then to Bar Harbor and stuff. But I went last year up. Now, let me ask you something as a Canadian. I was in Quebec, but
Yes.
Quebec, I think they fight with the other Canadians. Is that true? Is there a disagreement?
I mean,
Tell me the story.
all right. So Quebec is. I'm going to go politics because this is true politics. But this
What's
is
politics?
you can look at the history. I'm not
Okay,
making this up.
right.
So Quebec was founded by French from in 1634, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And the Louisiana Purchase was bought from the French when they lost the war to England, and that's part
Right.
of where Vermont is actually Green Mountain in French, and
Oh, okay.
Louisiana speaks French, so there's a lot of it that comes from that. And then the English kept on trying to figure out how to get Quebec to speak English. And
Oh,
at the time it was called Lower Canada, I believe. And they created Canada in 1867
okay.
to assimilate French Canadians. And again, I'm not making that up. It's a report that was written in 1864 by Lord Durham. So you can look at everything I'm just saying is not politics, it's fact.
Yeah, yep.
So when you're part of a country that says we want to assimilate you, it's a big
Right.
chip to carry on your shoulder.
Right.
And we fought very hard to stay French, and we still fight to this day about that. So I think that's part of why Quebec has tried to, secede a few times. And I'm not going to bore everyone my history lesson here, but that's part of it too. But as I remind Quebecers, and this is something I've, in close to 25 years in America and knowing a lot of people, if anybody ever hurt Quebec in any way, shape, or form in other country, English Canada and the US would destroy anyone who would hurt us. And so we
Yeah.
have that brotherhood. Now, let's get over what happened in 1867.
Yeah.
But we hold grudges.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, we still call people in Newfoundland, which was part of England until 1949. And we still call them Newfies, which is a very derogatory term. Might as well call them from Alabama. And if you're from Alabama or Newfoundland, it's a joke. But ultimately, like, I think that Quebec has always had that chip on their shoulder, and sometimes it shows up in their politics. Thankfully, Alberta now has that chip on their shoulder, and they're getting all the attention because they have oil, and they say we want all the attention in Canada. So now they're hated. So it's great.
Well, my mother's mother was born in Newfoundland, so I got a little Newfie.
Oh, so you're a Newfie. All right. I've got a lot of Newfie jokes for you, but they won't fly in America because when I say Newfie here, they're like the dog. I'm like, no, you
But
meant
it's beautiful up there. I love going up to Nova Scotia, and that's one of my favorite cruises. Quebec City is beautiful. So,
and Newfoundland's the nicest people in the world.
yeah, very friendly.
And when 9/11 occurred, I know, again, going in history a little bit, a lot of the planes that were coming from Europe had to land in Gander in Newfoundland because that was the closest one. And anybody who's been shout me out or write to me if that's if you've been on there. But the whole village, everyone took in, I can't remember the number, we'll say 5,000, it's over 5,000. And they took them into their houses until they opened the airspace so they can get to the US.
Oh, wow.
There was no like, oh, you owe me money or this and that.
Right,
It was just be nice to people.
Yeah.
And so that's how good people in Newfoundland are.
You know what's interesting, and maybe I'll like your take on this. I find it interesting that during that 9/11 and the beginning of COVID, I thought we were all so much closer together. It was almost not nice because it was a tragedy, but you know what I'm trying to say? And then we went back. But for a little while there, we all helped each other. We all loved each other. We all got along. And that would be nice if we can get back to that point. I'm not wishing another tragedy, Steve. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying.
No.
There was definitely a difference to me anyway.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think that what happened with 9/11 after we had the Chad issues in the election of 2000, it brought everyone like we're all Americans. And frankly, we were all citizens of the world. I can only think of a handful of people who were like, oh, no, good that this happened, basically. And with COVID, it was a global issue. We're all in this together. And that's what started it. But I think that we forget that we're all in this together because I remind people no one gets out of here alive.
Yeah. It's all the same in the end.
Right. So we need to start thinking about it that way. And when we ostracize someone as a therapist, my first question is, what do you see in yourself that you don't like in that person? And most people are like blown away by that and tell me to fuck off. But I think it's a good way to think about what do you see? Well, they're not willing to change their opinion. So you don't like to change your opinion. What? I'm like, yeah, that's what you just said. Fuck you. And then they kind of explore it and they go like, lo and behold, that's absolutely true. So I don't know. That's how I perceive it, is that if we understood that what we don't like in other people are parts of who we are, and that's shadow work from Carl Jung, and I'm not going to bore you with psychoanalytic bullshit here, but that's what it is. And that's the truth.
And I like to say, there's nothing wrong with not liking people. I hate a lot of people, Steve. No, it's not horrible, but let them go. Don't let them consume your mind 24 hours a day. It's okay. And
it's, as a therapist, I've said this to a few people, and I'm fine with saying that again. I hate people. I like individuals. I like small groups of people, but large number of people, it seems like the IQ just drops as the bigger the crowd gets.
Oh yeah. You should want cruise ships.
All right. Well, you can tell my girlfriend. She was like, "Oh, we should go on a cruise ship." No.
Oh, there's
Why?
great people watching on cruise ships, Steve. You could write a book.
I'm trying to stay away from work and writing
Yeah,
books.
I take Steph loves it too. She'll just sit there with her Kindle and read and just look at because you gotta look. You just gotta look. You're like, this is what life is, right? Tattoos, more tattoos. I said the one guy, his whole body was tattooed, everything. I said, did you run out of paper? What the hell is wrong?
Yeah, and I've yet to have a tattoo yet, so I
I don't know
can't.
nothing wrong with it, but now a lot of the women have them. A lot of women have tattoos, which is fine. But a lot of women who are in their 80s now, the tattoos are much lower than they were when they
Right, correct.
got them. Yeah. There's a visual for everybody listening today.
Yes, and I now I'm a little disturbed, but that's okay. I'm usually very disturbed based on what most people tell about me. But one of the things you mentioned earlier, in which something that is a theme at finding your way through therapy, is you mentioned talking to your therapist. So you've been in therapy before?
Oh yeah, yeah, and it was great. It helped me immensely. Because I got some stuff that I never knew I had that was causing certain reactions to me. And it's hard. It's not easy going to therapy, and it's very difficult. And I think people don't go for that reason. But just my opinion, when you do go, and it takes a while, as you know, but it is helpful. It is, and I would recommend anybody at least look into it because it is so much help out there for people nowadays, more than there ever has been, you know, and it's there. Use it.
I think there's still stigma though, and I
Yeah.
explain. And I've got some people who come into my office and they put their cross their arms like this, and they go, "Fix me." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So when you go to your doctor and you ask for an appointment, you just cross your arms and go,
Yeah.
"All right, figure out what's wrong with me physically. I'm not telling you." No, I can't.
Yeah.
I'm not a fucking magician.
No, no, but like I said, and it's not easy because you have to come to grips with some stuff that are pretty bad. But
Yes.
once you do, and you maybe understand why they're there, and you get going, that's why, like I say, comedy for me has been really helpful mentally for me to get past that point and talk about things and laugh about things, and it's great. And I think more people need therapy than they know. you know,
Well, I go with I'll tell you where this podcast comes from too, and maybe it'll make sense to you based on what you just said. I think we should all be able to go to, mental health therapy at least once a year, just like we do
yeah,
for our physical health. And I have a few clients, and I mentioned this many times, who come in every 3 months, every 6 months, and they
yeah.
call me their oil change. Hey, everything going
I,
good? None of this, that kick the fucking
yeah.
tires and we move on.
I
Or, oh,
call
a lot
mine.
of,
I
yeah,
tell her I need a tune-up. I said,
right.
look, I'm just going to come in for a tune-up. you
Yeah.
know, but yeah, I'm with you. Everyone should go once to see if it's help.
Yeah, and I think that for me, it's not going once; it's going, a few times and find a good match because I'm not
Right,
everyone's cup of tea. I mean,
right,
your comedy is great, but
right.
maybe someone
Some
somewhere
people don't
somehow
like it.
doesn't like it.
Exactly, exactly.
So go
Same
see
thing with
another
therapy.
comedian.
Yep, it's the same exact thing. No, I agree 100%. I like to go to a team of doctors if I could, Steve. I like to have 10 to 12 and just sit there. And, what are you all thinking? We've been talking for an hour now. Come on, give it to me straight.
Well, there's a group in Quebec called Rakibel Oreilles, and they used to have a joke. I went to group therapy. It was me and 20 other doctors.
It's true. It's true.
And then I think the other line is they really fucking like me. I used to line up for the electroshock therapy.
I don't lie down now. I draw the bridge. I'll sit, but I don't lie.
But yeah, no, I think that's, that was always kind of like my view is that, you got to figure out what works for you. And, I know that
Let me tell you,
people,
I was one of those people that no way, I'm never going to no big, college athlete, tough guy. No way. But now you go and the good ones, like they'll hit things and you're like, wow. I came out shaking my head, going, okay, I got some work to do.
I mean, the day you think you don't have any work to do mentally should be the day you're heading towards your grave, essentially.
Done. Yeah, yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a therapist and I go to therapy and there's always shit I got to work on.
And I would think that more people are in therapy today. I don't know, but I would think so with the amount of stress in life.
There's more people in therapy than there's ever been.
Yeah.
The problem is that we don't have enough therapists to fill out all the demand, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, I think that with people in our field, because of especially COVID, but it had been started before that, we were a shortage about 125,000 before COVID. We're a shortage of about 250,000 now plus.
Really?
And I think that with therapists too, and again, this is my soapbox, insurance companies don't pay us enough.
Right.
And they expect us to work miracles in 12 weeks. Well, I don't fucking do miracles in 12 weeks. I tell people all the time, if you think you're going to come here 12 times and you're going to be fine, I'll find you a therapist that thinks they can.
Yeah.
If you want a therapist that's perfect, again, I'll find you someone who thinks they're perfect. I'm fucked up as much as the next person, but I'm a good fucked up.
You should start a drive-through therapy session. Just have a drive-through.
Yeah, well,
1 billion served, just like McDonald's. Just keep them coming.
You're fucked. That will be $20. Next.
Would you like a Happy Meal with that?
I joked around because people have said to me like, and this is something I've seen on Instagram too and different social media, is we got to be able to also kind of like people like, oh, you should come to see my family. You'd understand why I'm fucked. I'm like, don't worry, I already know why you're fucked. But sure, I'll go see your family.
See, everybody's family's fucked. Everybody. Find me one that isn't. It's not out there.
I've had clients say to me, I'm dad, mom, whatever, and they're going to blame me when they grow up. I'm like, of course they will. Who do you spend the most time with for the first, arguably, 12 years of your life?
No.
And of course, you're going to fuck them up. Not purposely. Most parents don't try to fuck up their kids on purpose, but they do.
Yeah. But we're all in the same boat. Oh, God. My family dinners was fantastic. Fantastic. Still though it was thrown. It was beautiful.
Chelsea must have been really fun.
Oh, beautiful podcast. I suggest vacationing there to people many times if you can. Okay, book a bed and breakfast in Chelsea. There's many. It's a new thing there.
and if you don't know what we're talking about, look it up. I promise you'll find this funny.
Take a ride there if you don't know. Then you'll really go to therapy. As soon as you drive out, you'll go. You get to Revere, you'll make an appointment.
Yeah, well, I was thinking more like Lynn, but that's me. What else?
Lynn's Chelsea, only bigger.
Yes.
Yeah. Lynn.
Yeah.
What's that statement? I'm doing a show at the Lynn Auditorium, and they're giving us vests to wear on stage.
Oh, great.
Just in case.
Huh.
Someone doesn't want the joke. You don't know.
So, is there a giveaway for people to go see you too, so that they can wear the vest in case?
Yeah, you have to shoot first. There's the target outside.
Oh, okay. So I got to see if I'm a good sharpshooter.
Yeah.
That sounds exactly like Chelsea.
That's a different dynamic.
We've joked around a whole lot here and, talked about serious stuff too. But, I think of everyone who does kind of work like a comedian, a bartender, a hairdresser, a therapist. We're all therapists in some ways too.
Yeah.
I don't have this, you don't have a diploma on the wall. I don't care about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's part of what is also therapeutic, not only for you, but what you feel you kind of give to your crowd? Because it is a give and take when you do comedy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, I think by talking about, you saw my show, my family growing up, stuff like that. Everyone can connect right there. And I think if I can laugh at it, maybe they can too, because, as we get older, we should laugh at it. Traumatic things, fine. But a lot of things, we all went through the same stuff as kids because that was their generation. That's how they knew to do it. And now we do it different. So we laugh at the differences, I talk about, getting hit as a kid. You can't even talk about that nowadays. But that was reality back then. You screwed up, you got a slap, And we go, I'll tell you one story. I did a show years ago and I talked about growing up and getting a spank. And a woman comes up after the show. The crowd was fantastic. She starts the conversation by saying, excuse me, I'm a Harvard professor. That's how she started. I go, oh, shit.
Oh, great. That's a good start.
That's great. Anyone who starts that, she goes, I was very offended at the way you talked about how you got hit growing up. I go, How do you think I felt getting hit? Miss Harvard professor. I'm like, you dick. What was that up on you to come tell me that I shouldn't talk about my life? But I am a Harvard professor. I said, well, I graduated Bridgewater State. How do you like that?
What's that? What's that old joke? I once performed at Madison Square Garden, but then the usher came over and said, "Shut up." There's an artist on stage. Shut up. That's what I kind of remind people when I'm a Harvard professor. I went to Harvard. They kicked me out because they're saying you can't sleep here.
Yeah, I applied there. They said, wrote back my letter. Said, what are you shitting me? Lots of luck at Burger King.
And hence Bridgewater.
Yeah, I mean, to be that stuck on yourself to start a conversation with, I'm a Harvard professor, and then tell me that you're offended at what I went through. What's wrong with that picture? I want to say, let me slap you, and now you can really get a feel for how I went through.
Oh, you smart-ass is me. Do you know what happened to me when I was a smart-ass? Bang.
Yeah, exactly. So it's funny. Those are fun. Things like that. And I remember I've had many times people come up to me, Steve, on a serious note, and thank me. They said, they've gone through a horrible experience. I haven't laughed in months, and you made me forget about it for 40 minutes. And that hits me right here because that's pretty cool to me that I had that effect,
I go back to what you just said because I think that as we wrap up a little bit here, I think comedy therapy and all that, once we start really talking to people, we realize that we're all in the same boat, number one. And number two, if I can connect with Brad or Chris or John or Lacey or Izzy or whatever, I think that we can just realize that we're all humans and we all have our own experiences. And if you don't try to one up each other and just realize that everyone's situation is different, I think it would be a lot better.
Oh God, we're fighting the same battle. We're all here together. Exactly. Money doesn't mean money, nothing. We're all the same. I'm with you, man. I'm with you 100%. World will be a better place. We all got to be there.
I have a therapist friend of mine who said that, has worked with, millionaires, billionaires, head of industries. They're as miserable as we are.
Absolutely. Yeah. What good is it?
I mean, they're actually sometimes more miserable because they're like, what you wanted me to do with $1 billion? There's nothing left to give me a thrill. And connection is what gives me a thrill. And yes, I could use the billion. I'm going to play Powerball anytime I can. But
look at Steve Jobs, what he said before he passed. How money, when they look at it, really. I mean, people say you can't take it with you, but then I say, what if there's a cover charge? Maybe you should take 15, 20 bucks, just in case. I'm sorry, there's a cover charge. We can't let you.
And I grew up Catholic, so that was my cover charge.
Me too. But Steve Jobs to me was like, it was so succinct that he had everything, but he didn't have his health and he couldn't get it. And he said that. He goes, so money, what's it done for me? It's not going to save my life. I think we should all think a little bit more like that, maybe.
Well, I think that's a good segue to talk about anything you want to plug, anything you want to discuss.
I just have, like I said, I got this by the time this is, I know I'm going to be at the Kowloon Comedy Club November 3rd, kind of local. And let me see what else do I have. And if you're ever on a cruise ship, come up and see me up in Manchester, New Hampshire on
isn't that landlocked?
Hampshire Hills Event Center in Milford, New Hampshire. That's on the 4th. So yeah, those are a couple of local things that'll be at. Oh, one more thing. Merrimack, this sounds very good, Steve. The Merrimack Repertory Theater.
Excuse me.
I guess that's in Lowell. So that'll be on Friday, November 10th. So a couple of gigs if you want to go.
And if what people want to follow more about your gigs in the future, maybe they catch this in December because I'm so popular. Can they look up where you're playing?
Just Facebook now. I'm putting together a new website, so just like on Facebook, Brad Mastrangelo. I've usually put where I'm going to be. I'll get around to a new website pretty soon.
Well, I know that people always say these things, but I did see your comedy. I've always enjoyed talking to you as a human being. I loved your comedy. I'm not just saying that to be nice to you. You know that, hopefully.
I've always liked talking to you.
And I can tell you, I've been to a few comedy shows across the country. I don't know about the Boston crowd is just so like down to earth, and then the comedians are just so down to earth. I just love that crowd. And so if you get to Boston, go check him out. Go to Giggles, go to Calhoun's. We don't have enough comedy clubs, in my opinions.
Yeah.
There's comics down in, I think it's Foxwoods, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
I think so. Yeah.
But we need more comedy clubs. But very down to earth. And Brad, I really appreciate your time.
Oh, my pleasure, buddy. Great to talk to you.
Great talking to you.
Congratulations to what you're doing. I think it's just fantastic. It's just fantastic.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, that concludes episode 123. Brad Mastrangelo, thank you so much. Very funny guy, very honest guy. Really enjoyed our conversation and went in directions I didn't think it would go, but I hope you enjoyed it. The next episode will be something I want to talk about, and it will be about first responders. As you know, I have a big passion of talking about them, so please join me then.
Please like, subscribe, and follow this podcast on your favorite platform. A glowing review is always helpful. And as a reminder, this podcast is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. If you're struggling with a mental health or substance abuse issue, please reach out to a professional counselor for consultation. If you are in a mental health crisis, call 988 for assistance. This number is available in the United States.